This is all about dollar weakness. It's not about sterling strength. And I think this is a deliberate tactic from President Trump's administration. They want a weaker dollar. Now, they'll never admit that explicitly. And indeed, Tim Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, the other day said the official government policy was a strong dollar.
As part of President Trump's context, then, let's look at the US dollar, which could almost be in crisis. Its value has taken a bit of a whack in the last couple of days. Let's speak to Ian King, Times business columnist and markets commentator. Hi, Ian.
Good morning, Callum.
Good to speak to you. So the dollar's fallen more than 2% against the pound, and last year it dropped 9%. Can you just put it in context for us? What's going on here?
Yeah, this is all about, certainly when you look at sterling, this is all about dollar weakness. It's not about sterling strength. And I think this is a deliberate tactic from President Trump's administration. They want a weaker dollar. Now, they'll never admit that explicitly. And indeed, Tim Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, the other day said the official government policy was a strong dollar. But essentially, if you have a weaker dollar, America is fed up. Well, Trump and the administration is fed up with the dollar being the reserve currency of the world. There's always huge demand for dollars around around the world. Something like 90% of all currency pair trades involve the US dollar. And the US doesn't necessarily want that, because there is a school of thought within the administration that essentially puts pressure on America to keep on churning out dollars to the rest of the world. And that's why it borrows so much. That is the administration's theory in a nutshell. So they don't want that to come to an end. They want a weaker dollar. They want inflation as well to an extent. This is why Trump has consistently been hammering away at the US Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. The US has a huge debt, and Trump wants to inflate some of that away. And the US national debt, by the way, is why the dollar is weak. That's been the big concern over the last 12 months. The administration passed the One Big Beautiful Bill last year, big tax cuts. That is implicit in that is a massive increase in US government borrowing. The US national debt, I think off the top of my head, is something like $37 trillion right now. Wow. $37 trillion. If you take all of the debt around the world, globally speaking, I think total debt, sovereign debt, is something like 375 trillion. So the US on its own accounts for about a tenth of that. Well, it certainly doesn't account for a tenth of the world's population. And that is essentially why the dollar is weak right now. And the administration is quite happy to connive with that, if you like.
So I think that part of it's quite interesting, actually. It makes me wonder, in this country, in the UK, we often talk about politicians claiming credit where it is not due them in terms of a kind of economic context, whether that's on things like interest rates, which are set independently, etc. Does a president of the United States, and specifically this president, have more influence, I suppose, at his disposal over things like this that we're talking about, these bigger sort of economic factors that are at the heart of, well, global trade and certainly US society? Does Trump have more influence than Sir Keir Starmer would have in the UK?
Oh, yeah, he definitely has an outsized influence. And that indeed is another reason why you've had dollar weakness. Trump has kept up a relentless campaign of pressure on Jerome Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve. Even this week after the Fed held rates, he was putting out social media posts calling Jay Powell a moron. We had that extraordinary without precedent film that the Fed put up a couple of weekends ago, where Jay Powell said that the Department of Justice is seeking to press charges against the Fed over the expansion of its main headquarters, which has gone over, well, Trump alleges it's gone over budget. Trump alleges there's been corruption there. And Powell was very explicit. He said this is all part of Trump's campaign against the Federal Reserve to get us to cut interest rates at a level that we don't think would be right for the US economy. Now, interestingly, there's going to be a big turn in that story, we think, later on today, when Trump finally announces who is going to succeed Jay Powell. This has been one of the most extraordinary sort of debates that's been going on very, very publicly. It's been a sort of very public hiring process over the last few months, with the betting market, sort of the leadership in that race changing several times. It looks as though Trump is going to rely on Kevin Walsh, who was a Fed governor from 2006 to 2011. So he was there during the global financial crisis. He was one of the youngest Fed governors at the time when he joined the committee. He was interviewed back in 2017 for the post when Trump inevitably plumped for Jay Powell, who, as I say, he's turned on subsequently. And this will be, I think, quite a market-friendly move. So you mentioned that the dollar had fallen a couple of percentage percent yesterday. It's actually nudged up overnight on confirmation that we are going to get an announcement today. And Walsh is seen as being someone that the markets will take to. He's quite grown up. He will probably cut interest rates as Trump wants, but he's not going to be a Trump lackey, if you like. And that's something that the market has been very, very concerned on, because it really doesn't want someone who's just going to do what Trump tells them and cut interest rates to an unsustainably low level, which would just unleash inflation.
Yeah. Ian, always great to speak to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's Ian King, Times business columnist and markets commentator.